City workers uncover an ancient treasure in the last place they suspected. Have you ever stopped and considered what you're actually stepping on when you walk out the door each morning? Grass, concrete, and the like are all pretty obvious answers, but what's underneath all that? Without even realizing it, you may be gliding atop a trove of treasures that could change history as we know it. For one group of London city workers, discovering lost and buried relics of the past beneath city streets was all part of the job. Yet, after a new project led them to dig alongside one of history's most storied rivers, the workers discovered an ancient secret that left them in awe. They'd never seen anything like it. For centuries, the River Thames has played a prominent role in English life. Those that first settled beside the river used it as a source of food and transportation, and later the Thames was held as a prominent fixture in tribal religion. Rivers were often considered sacred in the early days of man, and the Thames was no exception. Alternatively named the Isis after the Egyptian goddess of motherhood and health, the Thames regularly drew worshippers looking to pay tribute to the gods of its shores. During the Bronze Age, worshippers often tossed valuables into the Thames to appease the deities they were praying to. Weapons, jewelry, and currency were all cast into the river to bring good fortune upon their tribes. As civilization advanced, so did the Thames' role in society. The river as a waterway for trade and exploration, a source for industry, and even a leisure spot for boaters and swimmers. But as the industrial age reached its peak in the early 19th century, the Thames became a dumping ground for chemical runoff, garbage, and even human waste. Yet where most saw a dirty, trash-strewn river, others saw opportunity. Young boys known as mudlarks began scavenging the shores in search of items to sell, which were usually things like discarded silverware or old pottery. Yet every so often, relics of the Bronze Age would turn up in the muddy waters and bring these boys a nice payday. The Thames has since been cleared of this pollution, and most present-day mudlarks believe that the Bronze Age relics that once washed ashore were lost to time. But in late 2019, one discovery flipped this story completely on its head. In preparation for a new quarry project, a group of city workers were dispatched to the London borough of Havering to clear the area of any valuable artifacts. This was simply protocol, however, as the city was convinced the workers would come away empty-handed. But as soon as their shovels hit dirt, the workers struck gold, or rather bronze. The excavation had revealed 4 separate deposits of Bronze Age artifacts, each one more impressive than the next. In total, the workers pulled 453 individual relics from the cache, including swords, knives, axes, spearheads, and daggers. Non-weapons such as bracelets, woodworking tools, and metal ingots were also recovered. It's incredibly rare to have uncovered 4 separate hoards of such size on one site, said Roy Stevenson of the Museum of London, as most large deposits are often found in isolation rather than in groups. This discovery is of huge importance due to the deliberate placement of each deposit, Stevenson continued, and raises questions as to why this treasure was buried in this way and why it was never recovered. Several theories were put forth about the origins of the Havering hoard, which was dated between 900 and 800 BCE. One researcher posited that the goods were buried there as an offering, much in the same way that they were once tossed in the water of the Thames. Others suggested the opposite, that the hoard was deposited in a ritual closing of a temple built alongside the river. This theory was somewhat supported by the fact that most of the weapons were broken when discovered. Yet this fact could just support a more obvious claim, that the hoard was nothing more than a garbage dump. When early tribes abandoned bronze tools and weapons in favor of harder steel, they simply could have buried the goods to keep them out of reach. It's guesswork pretty much as to the intentions, curator Kate Sumnall told The Guardian. We've got the evidence, we'll be putting forward our best theory, but we can never definitively know. Whatever the reason for its placement, the hoard provided valuable information about the state of travel and trade during the Bronze Age. The axes were traced back to mainland Europe, meaning whoever deposited them had at least had contact with tribes a great distance away. Our site is not an isolated site, explained Sumnall. It is part of a bigger European connection, with a lot of trade, a lot of movement, a lot of communication of ideas, and also of goods as well. After all the items were cataloged, the Havering hoard officially clocked in as the largest ever found in London, and the 3rd largest in the United Kingdom. The Staffordshire hoard, discovered in 2009 and containing over 3,500 relics, remains Britain's most significant find. Today, the Havering hoard can be found on display at the Havering Museum in Romford, England. Yet, just about an hour north of this sleepy suburb, an even greater find was waiting to be uncovered by an unlikely treasure hunter.